I'm sitting here next to a grave in a cemetery in Surabaya, Indonesia. It's ironic that a trip I began 30 years ago in the Andes Mountains of South America would lead me here to a grave in Surabaya, Indonesia. It's ironic because Surabaya is host to the last and only synagogue in the entire country. It's also where in 1927 a Nazi party was founded in Indonesia by a close personal friend of Adolf Hitler. It's ironic because some people believe that this grave is that of Adolf Hitler himself. This is a story that began at the end of 1945 with the escape of many Nazi war criminals, helped by Nazi priests, monsignors, bishops, archbishops, and cardinals, who helped actively in the escape of Nazi war criminals. It's the story of the International Red Cross, who supplied thousands of passports for these same war criminals. It's the story of American and British intelligence who hired these Nazi criminals for various purposes and then covered up their cooperation with them for years. This is the story of Soviet intelligence, who perpetrated one of the greatest lies and deceptions on humanity. This is the story of the disappearance of Adolf Hitler. It's the story of the Ratlau.
Alle gelacht, diese Idioten. Sie haben das für einen Spaß gehalten. Sie lachen heute nicht mehr. Sie wissen, es ist ein blutiger Ernst geworden. Ich möchte auch den Hinweis noch darauf, den ich schon einmal habe, dass nämlich, wenn wirklich die andere Welt von dem Judentum in einen allgemeinen Krieg gestürzt wird, das Judentum damit seine Rolle in Europa ausgespielt haben wird. Auch eine andere Macht, die sehr gewaltig war in Deutschland, hat unterdessen die Erfahrung erleben können, dass die nationalsozialistischen Prophezeiungen
وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين اللهم عليك باليهود ومن والاهم اللهم عليك بالأمريكان ومن والاهم اللهم احصهم عددا واقتلهم بددا ولا تغادر منهم.
Supreme leader Ayatollah al-Khamenei as the new Hitler of the Middle East. In an interview to a US newspaper, Saudi Crown Prince said, and I quote, "We learned from Europe that appeasement doesn't work. We don't want the new Hitler in Iran to repeat what happened in Europe in the Middle East."
في الانفجارات اللي صارت في لندن وزعنا حلو كتير لانه برضه هم هدول اعداء الاسلام وبيحاربوا بالاسلام.
بالنهاية هدفنا انه اي انسان اي بني ادم انه يحارب الاسلام يكون عدو للاسلام وللمسلمين بالنهاية انه يعني يكون حلال واحد يعني انه ينقتل يعني.
بالنسبة للتفجيرات اللي صارت اول مرة في امريكا ب 11 ايلول كانت لها ردة فعل لكل العالم الاسلامي.
The British royal family is steeped in tradition, opulence, and intrigue. Upon a glance, you may see nobility and stature. Dig a little deeper, however, and you'll find that reality may be more scintillating, and in some cases, more bizarre than fantasy. The royal family's Nazi ties. There have been rumors that members of the royal family were Nazi sympathizers and possibly even colluders. Due to declassified documents and decades of investigation, we know that Adolf Hitler regarded the Duke of Windsor as an advocate of the Nazi cause and someone who could be of future use. Sure enough, it's reported that Hitler and Edward conspired to reinstall the Duke of Windsor as a puppet king for the Nazi cause. This after Edward had reportedly abdicated his throne in order to be with American woman Wallis Simpson. Childhood photos of young Queen Elizabeth and her brother Prince Edward even surfaced showing the two offering the Nazi salute. Buckingham Palace denounced the photos and said the two were so young they didn't know what they were doing. After decades of not hearing much about the royal family's Nazi connection, Prince Harry stirred the pot again when he went dressed as a Nazi at a costume party. Nice, Harry. Though to be fair, Prince Harry later apologized about the dumb move. House of Windsor is not of British descent. There's nothing more British than the House of Windsor, right? Wrong. The House of Windsor is actually pretty German. Now, before you spill your tea all over yourself, there's a few things to consider. Prior to the modern age, it was completely common to have a non-native person installed as a monarch. In fact, trading of children and marrying off of children was a very common thing among royals of old, which often led to countries being ruled by someone who was not from there. In the 1700s, Great Britain literally ran out of royals. This was due to a boycott against Catholics. Since Catholics were so numerous, it was difficult to find heirs to the throne. Through decades and decades of very creative manipulation and family tree cutting, the House of Windsor was actually the House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. But due to anti-German sentiments in the early 1900s, King George V changed the name to the House of Windsor. This may also be a good time to mention that strict standards were not always followed when it came to the royal lineage. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert were in fact first cousins. The two married and had 9 children together.
In unseren Augen, da muss der deutsche Junge der Zukunft lang und rank sein, flink wie Windhunde, zäh wie Leder und hart wie Kruppstahl.
Bosnien-Herzegowina. Nahezu die Hälfte der Menschen in Bosnien sind Muslime. Das Land gehört zum faschistischen Kroatien. Es kämpft treu an der Seite der Deutschen. Auch die meisten Muslime sind deutschfreundlich. Längst weiß man auf dem Balkan, dass die Nazis dem Islam freundlich gesonnen sind. Im Februar 1943 befiehlt Hitler, eine neue SS-Division in Bosnien aufzustellen.
Viele waren arbeitslos und deswegen meldete man sich. Und so habe ich auch davon gehört und von der Handschar-Division erfahren.
Himmler bestimmt die Muslime auf dem Balkan zu den rassisch wertvollen Völkern Europas. Gehorsam bis in den Tod schwören die Muslime dem deutschen Oberbefehlshaber Adolf Hitler. Am Ende sind über 20.000 in der Einheit, unter ihnen noch Deutsche. Der Großmufti persönlich wirbt für die Kollaborationstruppe.
Liebe Kameraden, die Freundschaft zwischen Muslimen und Deutschen ist viel stärker geworden, weil der Nationalsozialismus in vieler Hinsicht der islamischen Weltanschauung parallel läuft. Die Berührungspunkte sind der Monotheismus und die Einheit der Führung, der Islam als ordnende Macht, der Kampf, die Gemeinschaft, die Familie und der Nachwuchs, das Verhältnis zu den Juden, die Verherrlichung der Arbeit und des Schaffens.
SS-Reichsführer Himmler schaut mehr auf die inneren Werte. Ich muss sagen, ich habe gegen den Islam gar nichts, denn er erzieht mir in dieser Division seine Menschen. Beim Mufti lässt er anfragen, was der Islam für die Ernährung des Soldaten vorschreibt. Sogar einen Kochlehrgang für eine Verköstigung ohne Alkohol und Schweinefleisch richtet die SS ein. Persönlich kümmert er sich um die Kopfbedeckung für die muslimischen Rekruten. Unermüdlich ist der Mufti für den Führer unterwegs. Mal rüstet er in Budapest unmittelbar hinter der Front seine Politimame moralisch auf, weil die Handschar-Soldaten jetzt an der hart umkämpften Ostfront eingesetzt werden. Oder er schult bis zuletzt in seinem Institut neue Imame, zeigt ihnen, wie sie die Soldaten im tödlichen Ringen führen müssen.
Klar habe ich meine Kameraden und auch mich selbst getröstet, denn ich wusste, was uns bevorstand. Ich habe gesagt, unsere Aufgabe liegt darin, den Feind an unserem Frontabschnitt zurückzudrängen. Dabei wird es sicherlich Opfer geben. Jedenfalls, wer auf eben diesem Weg sein Leben verliert, ist ein Schahid, ein Märtyrer. Und so habe ich auch davon gehört und von der Handschar-Division erfahren. Und so habe ich auch davon gehört und von der Handschar-Division erfahren.
Journalist Alan Nairn reports that according to senior Indonesian officials and police and details from government files, the U.S.-backed Indonesian armed forces, now due for fresh American aid, assassinated several activists last year. The killings were part of a secret government program and were coordinated in part by the U.S.-trained Kopassus Special Forces General, who has just acknowledged on the record that his troops had a role in the killings. The news comes as President Obama is reportedly due to announce that he is reversing long-standing U.S. policy imposed by Congress in response to grassroots pressure of restricting categories of U.S. assistance to Indonesia's military, a force which, during its years of U.S. training, has killed hundreds of thousands of civilians. A senior Indonesian official who meets frequently with top commanders and with the President of Indonesia provided Nairn with detailed accounts of certain aspects of the program, including the names of victims, the methods, and the names of some perpetrators. They were verified by other officials, including senior members of the Indonesian National Police. Some were also verified by the Kopassus general who helped run the killings. The senior official spoke because he said he disagreed with the assassinations. He declined to be quoted by name out of fear for his position and personal safety. Incidents include a series of assassinations and bombings in Aceh, where local elections were being contested by the historically pro-independence Partai Aceh. At least 8 party activists were assassinated in the run-up to elections. One of the activists, Tumijan, a palm oil worker from Nagan Raya, was abducted and found 2 days later in a sewage ditch. His throat was slit, his body mutilated and bound with electrical wire. Some of his family blamed the security forces and, as has happened frequently in such cases, started receiving anonymous death threats.
Soeben erfahre ich, dass unser geliebter Führer Adolf Hitler nicht mehr am Leben ist. In dieser Stunde wurde die Notbremse ausgerufen. Da heißt es, so da, so stehen. Wir haben den Befehl, das Regierungsgelände abzuriegeln und bei hitzenden Unruhen vor Ordnung zu sorgen. Ich verlange von jedem Mann absoluten Gehorsam. Nicht anders wie an der Front. Ja!
Kameraden, Soldaten, ich bin zutiefst erschüttert. Soeben erfahre ich, dass unser geliebter Führer Adolf Hitler nicht mehr am Leben ist. When the Nazis decided to make a volunteer division, they recruited so many foreign nationalities into their armies. And they decided to make the Dutch volunteer division. It was created in 1943, and because our country has a close relation with Dutch, so there are so many Indonesians living in Holland. What happened was they got drafted.
Achtung!
And our founding fathers are those Indonesians who were staying in Holland and got drafted to the Nazi armies, I guess. Diese Stunde wurde der Notplan Vakure ausgerufen. Da heißt es, zusammen zu stehen. Wir haben den Befehl. It's not like I have anything against the Dutch. Not at all. It's not about that at all.
Está sudah panzer in Sumben dahin.
We've been spending our childhood being fed these history books about how the Dutch, colonized us. There was this bad monster, who came to us a long time ago. Oh, you're so lucky. You were not living at that era. But it's a totally different thing when you start to have your own opinion And my opinion is, I think that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be, man. Who are the most appropriate entity to give us education other than the better civilization at that time, which was the Europeans, obviously.
Arguing that some British streets have become off-limits to non-Muslims may be a view associated with the far right, but when a Pakistani-born Anglican bishop publicly agrees, it reopens the debate. Writing in the Sunday Telegraph, Michael Nazir Ali says the effect of multiculturalism has been to turn already separate communities into no-go areas, and those of a different faith or race may find it difficult to live or work there because of hostility to them.
This article is unnecessarily alarming and might be considered by some people as inciting hatred against religion.
The bishop was abroad today, but a colleague in his Rochester diocese echoed his comments.
Our history is based on our Christian understanding of the world, that we've built a country on this basis, but in the past decade or so we seem to have lost it. We've emphasised multiculturalism to the point of losing our own roots.
In Oxford, the city of dreaming spires is also adapting to the new cultural landscape. The local mosque wants to broadcast the call to prayer over loudspeakers, another feature of multi-faith Britain which the bishop objects to. Muslims here say it's no different to the sound of bells welcoming churchgoers.
Bishop should be a very broad-minded person. He's a religious man. He should give good consideration to the other religion as well. When the bell rings in the morning time, around about 8 o'clock or 7:30, the people are still sleeping. Don't the bishop think they are disturbed?
Different religions living side by side may result in occasional cultural friction. The alternative would be the creation of single-faith ghettos, which so many people fear or oppose.
I said. I want to take this moment to apologize. What I said may have been hurtful to some people. I did not intend on hurting anyone's feelings. That is why I'm apologizing in this video. I hope you will accept this apology.